infrastructure is one of the issues, the dilapidation where there is, the whole management of the school administration, the soft components of education, the timetabling, the allocation of teachers, the absenteeism, the punctuality. Then we have a look at the vote books, because secondary schools do get a vote of almost $1.2 million per year per school, and primary schools, money is from the boards. They go to the boards where there are board schools, and the boards distribute the funding to their schools. So we're looking to see whether there are small infrastructural problems that can be dealt with at the level of the school if they get the funding themselves directly. And we look at the relationship of guidance officers, health and safety officers, the clerks in the schools, the cleaning of the environment. These are just some of the issues. And of course, just one of the schools this morning, they have 700 plus students. They have 70 teachers, that one teacher to 10 students. And when we look through the book for punctuality and regularity, we see almost on a daily basis between 15 to 20 teachers are absent. And that is unacceptable. And the performance of the school is only about 20% average performance. So here it is, the state is spending millions and millions of dollars, and the accountability of the schools leave a lot to be desired. And this is where we are going to enforce a great deal more accountability in terms of management of the schools by principals and by school supervisors, and the work that teachers are doing. This is a perfect example of a school that has been beautifully managed. Exchange Presbyterian, a student population of 600. They have 28 teachers, so 1 in 20. One teacher to 20 students. They have a class about 85 in SEA, and generally on a yearly basis they get at least 5 to 10 of their students in the first 200, and the performance is extremely good. So I asked the principal what differentiates her performance from other schools around the area, and she indicated that it's basically is a question of management and management commitment, and she is a principal that is committed with her staff. So that's what we're looking for in the education system. The soft components, we can be spending millions and millions in putting up the infrastructure, but if the soft components are not working, the school-based management, the teachers' performance, the teachers' training, teachers' development, and a number of these other issues. This is why Minister Indar Singh has brought me to his schools this morning, and we're picking up a lot of issues within the central region here. On these matters. So every day as we move, newer issues are coming to the forefront, which we cannot gain by sitting in a minister's desk at the ministry. And therefore, I've dedicated 2 days of the week, Mondays and Wednesdays. I think I've visited more than 55 schools so far, but out of 900. So, well, hopefully one day. But the important thing is I have my book here and I document what are some of the issues, and I follow up on the issues. And we have the team from the educational facilities, team from the ministry. My deputy permanent secretary is here, and ministry officials. So we are working from the field. 2 schools have to be completed, 2 secondary schools, and need a WASA connection. So we try to make a call immediately to deal with the issues like that.
We overheard as well that you were speaking about the allocation to the schools from the boards. This school gets about 4,000, while the ministry allocates 100,000.
Yeah, the permanent secretary is advising me at the moment of the allocations to each one of the primary schools and the secondary schools, and we're determining what methodology is being used by the boards, whether they give it to the schools themselves. And by the government schools, we are now planning to give to the government schools their allocation. Well, of course, which will be quarterly, but with accountability from the principals themselves. So they're being trained now in the management of the funding, because they have to account for the taxpayers' dollars. And that will eliminate a lot of the smaller infrastructural issues which they can deal with on a daily basis. And so it will probably be more preventive rather than having to deal with things after they have occurred. So they will be able to manage their systems a lot better if we decide to give the money directly to the principals with their accountability. And this is what we're working towards.
We also heard you saying that increasing the allocation.
Well, that is something that the cabinet and government will have to consider. I just thought with the $100,000 that most of the primary schools are getting boards as well for each one. I think we have to, they pay a certain amount for janitorial services and security and so on. So we will have to discuss with them a lot more, and this is where when we have stakeholders consultation. But we pay for electricity, telephone, water, and 1 or 2 areas for each one of the schools, whether board or government. And so an increase, if we increase it by 50,000 more for primary schools, we have 500 primary schools, that's 25 million more for the year. It's something to consider, and something I would definitely have to go to cabinet for cabinet's consideration for improvement in the school's management capability. And bearing in mind we spend over 120 million for janitorial services and we're not able to manage it properly, and we spend 230 million for security services which we are not able to manage properly as well from a headquarters. If we give the individual schools the authority to manage that for themselves, the janitorial and the security services, they will know how they're spending their money, and therefore they might have greater accountability and transparency in the system.
Okay, yesterday was a continuous assessment test. Well,
I know you would have. I had to answer that this morning on television. Yes. I think it went very well. It was not a test, it was a practice examination where the students were able to practice the creative writing aspect. Well, of course, they will be examined on it, but not for marks. And they were getting a feedback from the moderators and the teachers on how well they did. And then a second feedback date is put forward for January 17th, where they will have a second day of writing the scripts. They would be evaluated. They will have a feedback. No marks are given for these first 2. Then they will undoubtedly do a few scripts during the year where they will be marked, and a small amount during the final aspect in May. So it's a method of getting them more and more accustomed to writing doing the creative writing scripts. They're evaluated and they're monitored, and a feedback mechanism, so they get better and better. And then the marks are given. The principal is shaking her head, you are in tune with that. So those students, instead of having one examination for 20%, they have an opportunity to get marks along the way. And they try and they get a feedback, they try again, and they get better and better. And they will maximize the amount of marks they get for the creative writing, and I think the parents and the students themselves will be very happy. So instead of getting 8 out of 20 in the final examination in creative writing, or 6 out of 20 or 7, they may be getting 15, 16, 17, 18, or even 20 out of 20. And that is being done now in Standard 5. The language arts, 40%, and the mathematics, 40% continuing. But the other aspects of the CAC, continuous assessment component, is on a pilot study in Standard 4 on physical education, visual and performing arts, values in education, citizenry development, character development, agri-science, health and family life education. That is being piloted in Standard 4 now. Well, marks are given, but just for a mock. But when they reach Standard 5 next year, the whole system will be transferred to Standard 5. And thousands of teachers were trained, the principals were trained to a certain extent. There are moderators now who have been trained, moderators moving in the system. We have discussed this ad infinitum with stakeholders, and we have even become very tired of having discussions. We have made some booklets on CAC, we have put it out in the newspaper, and so we are continuing to do our part, and nothing is perfect until, at the end of it all, nothing is perfect. But change, you always have resistance to change, and there will be conflict when there is change, and we will work along with the stakeholders in this manner.
So what do you think about the principals association saying that they had adopted a hands-off approach?
Well, the principals have a moral authority, they have a moral thing, moral need to ensure that the system works. We have communicated with these associations ad infinitum. We have worked with them all the time, and therefore there is a certain amount of there are regulations governing the conduct of principals and supervisors in the education system, which Teaching Service Commission is aware of. And we hope that we don't have to bring this to the attention of the Teaching Service Commission.
How long can we expect the results from the reports that you've taken?
Well, we have a team now from EFCL for some immediate repairs during the vacation period. And then there are some schools where we will have to break completely, demolish and rebuild. And some of them are related to boards, so we'll have to discuss these with the boards.
One last question. This has to do with the exchange RC school. The principal was talking about the property being the churches.
Yes, well, we always talk with the churches. We have a number of schools that we are constructing for the various denominational boards, whether it's the Catholic Church, Anglican, Presbyterian, Hindu, Muslim, Miracle Ministries, all the schools, all the denominational boards, about 18. So we have to talk to them before doing anything, which we have been doing.
Can you comment on the creative writing?
I did just now.
You did?
Yeah, you did.
All right.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah, pleasure.